cold weather bats. Welcome. We are nearing tryouts. They're happening on Monday. So this is the last preseason episode of this year's season, I suppose. This is a season 6, I believe. So this is all we've got left until Monday, and then it's season time. So no more previews. We'll still preview teams and everything on Patreon, but we're about done with the talk about what's to come, and then it starts to happen. There's also that tryout and practice period before games begin, but for the most part, we're pretty much here. And so alongside me today is Griffin Green. Huge shout out to our pal Michael Rubenstein, who's not with us today, which is a very rare moment. He is a very dedicated, committed individual, but his kid is sick. So all the blessings and prayers up to our boy Daniel, the GOAT. Probably wants a sucker, preferably the purple one, I think is his favorite. So shout out to him. Hopefully he's feeling good. As for us, it was quite the weekend. It was probably, I would say, the most loaded weekend CWB. Saturday, we had a player draft out at HVAC. Shout out to HVAC. Shout out to the prep. A lot of help, all of our sponsors. Chandler Bat, Pison, and the folks, Lucchini and all those guys. Appreciate that. And then we had the Cold Weather Bats Combine, or Cold Weather Combine, I should say, on Sunday out at 2SP, who we also should shout out as well. And had a nice turnout there, about 100 kids, maybe a little bit more, give or take. But yeah, just a really, really good loaded weekend. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is just recap it. And we'll get into some more gritty details, but I won't spend too long on that. Griffin, you were pretty involved with both these things. How do you think it went? It was your first player draft, your first broadcast. How are you feeling?
So, let's just talk about our weekend, because obviously you allude to it in the phenomenal intro that you gave, my friend. Just right off the top of the noggin, just went right for it. I loved every second of it.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem. This year is going to be my gift. I'm giving flowers. It's going to be my flower tour. If we get a graphic right there when we post this, that would be amazing. But anyway, but no, the weekend, I will be completely honest. Well, it was a great weekend, seeing everybody, networking, hanging out with the boys, like you said, thank you to the prep. Thank you for HVAC, all the guys that you mentioned. It was an awesome weekend, but dude, I'm exhausted. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I think it's what, Thursday today that we're recording this?
Feels like Tuesday.
Yeah, I feel like I just haven't slept in 3 days, right? Like, I think I think the quick turnaround from ending the player draft Saturday night, we didn't get out there till what, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, right? And for you, it was probably an hour and a half ride home, especially
an hour and a half ride home, in the snow. So I was nearly 1.
Yeah, no, and then we have to have a quick turnaround. And I got to be at 2SP in Warren at 6 a.m., 6:30. That was not ideal for the boy, but but overall, it was a great weekend. It was awesome. A lot of guys performed really well at the combine, and I know we'll get into that later. But I thought it was awesome. Right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a lot of things we could. We're always trying to grow and we're trying to improve and all this stuff. But I think from we really put it together in like a month and a half, right? So I think from an overall experience standpoint, from the feedback I got from players, right, over the last couple of days, they enjoyed it. They thought it was cool because, one thing that, stood out to me that some of the guys said was, it was cool getting to see a bunch of guys again, right? Yeah. Because everyone plays on, different summer ball teams, or they're traveling across the country, or they work out in, different facilities. It was cool. It was a cool experience to get everyone back under one roof. And a lot of these guys grew up playing together, right? Especially the guys in Southeast Michigan, right? They all kind of grew up playing together or playing against each other, every single weekend. So it was kind of a cool thing, a cool, unique experience for these guys to, kind of get the band back together, if you will.
Yeah, no, I think the same sentiment was shared with me, and just how everyone had a good time. At the end of the day, like Cold Weather Bats, the players, teams, and the coaches that, run the high school teams in the state, and the travel teams to an extent as well. But, my big thing for me, like having my fingerprints on this as long as I have, is just making sure like the players had a good time. And that was like the most consistent thing we heard thereafter, was how much the players enjoyed it. So just really cool to see a bunch of different areas. We had kids from the west side, we had kids from the east side, we had kids from up north, we had kids from the it was very well the state was across And it was just awesome, man, just to be able to do that again for the second time, but this time do it way better. Shout out to Ruby, a.k.a. Michael, for all the work that he put in.
Shout out, give him his flowers, dude. I mean, that guy absolutely worked his ass.
Grinded. The guy grinded.
He was the guy behind the scenes. We're just the pretty faces on camera.
Correct.
But no, he was, him, and he did a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, and he absolutely killed it, especially with the sponsorships and a lot of the different venue changes and stuff like that, that went on. He killed it, man. So shout out Ruby. He's one of a kind. He's one of our fearless leaders at Cold Weather Bats.
He's different. He's in the best way possible. He was basically Claude before Claude existed, in my opinion. His efficiency is through the roof. But to move on a little bit here, we're going to start covering two different things today. We'll spend some time on the draft, just talking about how the teams were built. You can read more detail on all of this because what's going to happen. We're going to cover some kids who were drafted. We're going to talk about some big steals. We're going to talk about some roster construction. But what's going to happen is you're going to listen to this, and maybe your name isn't mentioned, or maybe your son's name or your nephew's name, whomever the connection may be, isn't mentioned. So you're going to want more information. You might be someone who wasn't at the draft. We encourage you to go to YouTube, and be able to watch the stream back. It's still there. It'll always be there. It's free to watch. But you might not hear your name called during this little conversation Griffin and I have. So if you go to the Patreon, patreon.com/ColdWeatherBats, you can find team breakdowns on each of them. We are on to our third one, which is Team DePonio. So my team, Team Justice, and Team Samini are already up on the Patreon. We'll have 2 more coming out this week that talks more about it in depth. We're going to cover it a little bit more than surface level, but not a whole lot more than surface level because we got to cover a lot of stuff in about a 30 to 35 minute time span here. So don't be upset. Your name was probably mentioned on the Patreon in some capacity. He covered the entire roster in the Patreon. So, I do encourage you to head over there regardless of if you hear your name or not. But even if you don't, if you're looking for some caveats, I'd go there. Once we're done with the draft, we will then talk about the combine, which was a really good event for us as a company because it's a new venture and it's new business and it's something we haven't done before. And it's something that we want to do again eventually. And similar to what Griff said about the draft, something that we hope to continue to do better. I don't think anyone's ever done something for the first time and did it to the best of their ability. The draft was amazing. The combine I thought was amazing, but both can be done better. And we know that, and the company knows that, and those who run it know that. So we're going to keep the growth mindset and try to get better at them the next time we do them. The intention is to do the combine again. But when we cover it today, we will talk about who stood out to us, some MVPs from each position group, and then also some guys who maybe you didn't know before that you should know now, or you're going to know soon. So with that in mind, let's start with the draft. Griff, you were an analyst. I was a coach, so we have 2 different perspectives here in that regard. I want to start with who you thought was the best roster overall. And then if you could, just tell us a little bit as to why you think that is. It doesn't need to be a real deep thought. We are going to go into our favorite rotation, our favorite, and a little bit more on each team. But just based on what you can remember, what was your favorite team that was put together and why was it mine?
Well,
I threw you off with that one.
You did. The last part got me. But no, but for starters, let me say this. Being an analyst, I have more respect for Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay and the guys and Greg Amsinger when talking about the MLB draft, the guys who or Jim Callis, just the guys who cover draft coverage. Now I understand why that is your number one responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much detail that goes into players. There is so much detail that goes into the analysis of each player. And I mean, we only did it for 60 guys,
right?
I can't imagine those guys doing it for a 3-day span. And exactly where this kid went. You got player comps on each guy, right? It was all around it was a unique experience for myself just because, like I said, I'd never done it before.
Right.
But I think, kind of going into each team, I mean, but if I'm just going to be completely honest, and like I said, I think you have the best team.
I told you. I knew.
It pisses me off to say that because I thought truthfully, I thought Joe Neal was going to have a better team. I thought the way the picks were and he was positioned, right, of having the, you have the third choice, right, where you can get some real good value, especially there is some Samini ball, in there, right? He's going to take an athlete and he's going to teach him because it's like we have to remind Dan all the time, you're not coaching these guys.
Yeah.
We're not going over game plans. We're not making a lineup, right? Which would be cool if we were to ever do something like that. But I think if I'm looking top to bottom, who's stacked, who's has the most talent, and who I think is going to run away with this thing come late, pending if guys stay healthy, which knock on wood, we hope every single guy stays healthy. BJ, dude, I think I'm looking at it, dude. I mean, you have Cam Thorning behind the dish. You got Fairchild. You got Dylan Fairchild playing short. You got freaking Flip, Ethan Campbell, Shorter. You got Memphis as one of your last picks. Like Memphis Wirtz might hit 15 home runs this year for Lakeview. Like, and that's just not me saying that. Like that he has that kind of power and is that good. I think he's going to hit 15 home runs, and that might be the reason why you walk away with this at the end of the year. And it pains me to say that.
I know. I just I had my interview in the beginning of the draft, and Chad Bush said, what do you think about your team? I'm like, I could not be happier. It just kept falling in my lap, and I would look at two guys. I'm like, I got to pick one of them because the other one's not going to wrap back around. And over again, that second guy wrapped back around to me. Owen Dominowski wrapping back around to me was absurd. Oh, that was insane. I ended up getting him in the round
you got flipping with your second pick or third pick or whatever.
Third round, I got the 8th best player in the country. Now I get it. He's a sophomore, and that's kind of like what people are going to see. I don't necessarily want to speak for the other three coaches, but it was insane that Flip was sitting there. There was a zero.
I will say this. I will die on this hill, and I don't care who comes at me. Flip is the best position player in the state, regardless of class.
I mean, they don't play in an easy league, man, and he hit almost 500 as a freshman. So
no, he hits everywhere. It's kind of crazy, to think about, right? Because of the whole, Waters family, family tree the last, 5-6 years, right? But it's crazy. I can't believe you have the best team because I just wish we could do something to where these guys are playing, right? Like we do like a scrimmage or like a round robin, right? Winner take all. That would be awesome, right?
I think that has been mentioned as a potential thing. I just don't know if those pieces are going to come together because then
it'd be too hard, man.
My thing is you'd be playing between the state championship and that first summer tournament on a Tuesday. Right. And you just have too many guys that are not going to want to throw a spot inning for a virtual exhibition at that point, right? And so
you never know.
You never know. You really don't. It could happen. I hope it does. If nothing else, let this just be the space where we can say that if you're listening and you are one of the players and you want to be an ambassador to make this happen, we know we have the resources and facilities to field it.
Yeah, that's not the problem. We just got to get the kids
behind. The players wanting to do it.
100%. And if you're a pitcher and you're worried about your arm or whatever, you're going to throw an inning or maybe two max, but that's all you're throwing, right? That's just we're not rolling out Ethan Armstrong for 7 innings, back-to-back games like Grant Hartwig did back in the day for Catholic Central.
Right.
That was that's a whole different story.
I'm pretty sure I could get an inning out of EA though. EA is not really my worry. I think EA would give me an inning. I think.
Would he give you 7?
Not going to give me 7. I think he'll give me 1 though. Because that's draft season, and I think he's going to end up being one of those guys, and tough time. But if he's going up against the lineup of Samini's lineup, that's a great opportunity for him to just be like, I'm real good at this game, and an example as to why. I don't think it's going to hurt him to throw 1 inning, strike 3 guys out, and call it a day.
Yeah, so, absolutely. But going back to the draft and the teams and stuff like that, I mean, we knew DePonio was going to go St. Mary's heavy. Right?
Which bad plan, man. Bad plan.
It's not bad. He did a good job. And I feel like he would catch a lot of flack if he didn't do that. Right? Like if he didn't draft, excuse me, if he didn't draft, Crichton and all those guys, right away. I mean, those guys would have been taken like that. They would have went like hotcakes. But I think overall, Dan's got, DePonio's got a great team. Joe's got a great team. Samini's somehow gonna find, he might, send over, hey, this is your approach for the spring.
Yeah.
Give them a whole how-to guide to hit 600 because I feel like that's what all his teams do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't think any of the coaches in the state would not want their players getting some advice from a guy like him either. So,
yeah, the guy's got. I'm surprised he didn't show up with all of his state title rings on, because that one he would have rubbed it in my face. I mean, if you're curious about that story, go back to one of the first episodes I've ever was on. Because Dan ended my high school career 3 years in a row. But no, I think overall, there's a lot. But I think the one thing that kind of stuck out to me throughout the whole draft process is there's a crap ton of talent in the state of Michigan. There is so much talent. There's so much depth, right? And I know it kind of got a little dicey because you had a couple guys who were really talented go later, the last few picks of the draft. But I think overall, it really shows how much talent we have to offer in the state. And that when you put, when you put 4 teams up, against, really anyone in the country, or at least the Midwest, we'll compete with everyone. And I think that's something that really stood out to me throughout the whole process.
Yeah, it's a great statement. And, Chad asked me in that interview, have we reached the peak? And I don't think we reached the peak in pretty much anything in this world, just because technology continues to advance. So development.
Kids are getting better, dude. Kids are getting so much better.
Physically, they're getting so much stronger. It's just a different world, man. It really is. But let's get you back into analyst mode here. Put your analyst cap on for me.
I wish I had my Xbox headphones over here. I would have put them on.
Give me your biggest steal of the draft overall. And then if there's anybody else, if you can remember, if you're looking at the order right now, if there's anybody else you can remember from the picks, who else stood out as a steal. But if there's just one guy who was how on earth did he fall that far? What a great pick. It could be someone who was
Dylan. It was Dylan Fairchild. Or no, it wasn't Fairchild. It was Dominic Bonnetti.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Bonetti's one of the best shortstops in the state, regardless of class. Right? He's going to Notre Dame, and for guys who don't know, he's going to Notre Dame, and he goes to Richmond High School.
He's a junior.
Yeah. 2027. Yeah. So I think Dom's a very good player. I think he's an absolute stud. I think he's smooth up the middle. He obviously, talked about it. You probably heard me say he's a great athlete, because all these guys are great athletes.
They're all great athletes.
Right. But Dom's special. I think Dom can be really special. And for sure going into, obviously next year, his senior year, if we're going to hit the fast forward button a little bit. But I think overall, he was the one thing that kind of stuck out. The one guy who really stuck out to me, because I was when we were scrolling through the draft and we were going through it and, got to the 5th or 6th round or 7th round. And I was sitting there and I was like, Dom hasn't gotten taken yet. Yeah. Someone's going to get a hell of a player, a hell of a shortstop. And he was definitely the guy that was the most surprising to me. Also from a pitching standpoint, the one kid that fell to the last round or second to last round was Jackson Gilbert, the former West Virginia commit out of Lake Orion, right? And Jackson had a good year last year in high school, if I remember correctly. But I think that was one of the more shocking ones because Jackson's a top 10 arm in the state, in my opinion. I think from an overall stuff and from a velocity standpoint, absolutely.
Yeah, he goes the ball hard for sure.
Yeah, I've seen him up, to 95 this year. But having him in the later rounds, right? And DePonio just taking him from everyone. And I was just I don't know how Jackson slept that far. Maybe because he was uncommitted, even though he was a former West Virginia commit. I think the kid's going to commit in the next couple of weeks. But he's a very good player, very good athlete. I think Nick stole that one from everybody. Mm-hmm. But I think those were the two guys off the top of my head, without really looking into the list that I was whoa. How in the world did you get this far? Because you got to remember, this is all about stats, right? Where, you got to be strategic, right? Like there's some guys who play in not very good high school leagues that are going to put up crazy stats that are going to be the guys that, really win it for you.
That's why I kind of getting Eitniar, or however you say his last name, Tre Eitniar from Whiteford, because he's going to hit.
He might hit 700.
Same with Kellen Ford, Brian Dopp, like those guys are. Brian Dopp ended up not coming to the draft, but he was like another one that I wished would have, because I would have taken him, because he plays with Adrian Madison and he's going to put up insane numbers. But Kellen Ford's in that realm too, because he's one that we'll probably talk about when we get to the combine, and he's going to light it up, because he's going to play every position. And I know that, pitching wise, it's not going to help him because he was taken as a position players, but still, like, he's going to pitch too for him. But the big thing is his bat, man. He might hit north of 500. He might put 10 out. He's going to steal a ton of bases when he's on.
He might get walked every plate appearance.
He might get walked, but then you know what I mean. He's so free. His tool up until his junior year was like his speed. And then he started to kind of tap into, he had the contact tool, but the speed was really like what shined for him. And now he's got the power because he's developed so much. And that kind of is a nice little segue into the combine. So as far as the draft goes, those are big steals. Best team, my team. Appreciate that. Agree. I would love to offer my opinion, but as everyone knows, I would humbly agree. I think I put together the best team.
Dude, you have about the rules stuff. Hold on. You have Ethan Armstrong. You have Flip. You have Fairchild. You have Thorning behind the dish. All right. That's just like those
as a freshman.
Right. Those four stack up are better than anyone else's top four. And I'm sorry, that's just reality.
I appreciate that. Just so everyone knows, it's not easy for me to get a compliment out of Griff, man. So like, this is huge news.
Damn near impossible.
This is very genuine. So everyone knows this is a very authentic opinion. This is not just blowing smoke because I'm the co-host. This is legitimate. All right. So all that to say, let me just like make this clear. I spent so many hours this offseason watching videos of every single one of these guys and doing the top 100, which is almost done, by the way. Go to goweatherbats.com/Patreon or patreon.com/goweatherbats. My bad. Did that backwards. And check out the top 100. We're getting near the 20th one. And then we're rolling out. We'll have number 10 to 1 done by this Monday. So like get there as soon as possible if you want to find out who the guys are. A lot of the draft guys are being rolled out into the top 100 right now. Now, all that to say, I should have had the best draft because of how much time I spent. If I went and did that and didn't have a good draft, like that looks really bad on me. I spent way too much time studying these guys to not inherently know who to pick and when. So I can't be too proud of it. I am the guy who spent as much time as I did watching everyone in the state for the whole offseason. So that being said, I am happy with the squad. So draft, awesome, great time, some steals along the way, some guys who slipped that shouldn't have. I personally think Ethan Campbell slipped a lot, and I think I got him in the last round, and I think he's a real good player, and he's going to do real good at Zeeland East on the mound this year. Same thing with Wirtz, who you already mentioned. I also thought Cal Plarski is going to be a real good player for me as well a bit. Bonnetti for sure was my thought. I was maxed out at middle infield at that point. I had Bannis, and Bannis hit like nearly 500 in the Huron League last year. That league got worse this year, so he's only going to get better because they don't have to see Giroux at Flat Rock. And there's some other guys who left that league. I think Milan's got a couple of guys, but outside of that, he's going to absolutely smash that league. They do have a really tough non-conference, but like, he's only getting better, in my opinion. I already had him paired up with Fairchild. And, Bonnetti's a great player, and I'm really excited for, what he's going to do this year at Richmond, and I think it's going to be great. But, like, I had to say, Bannis' stats through the roof. They're going to be through the roof. But it got to a point where I almost took him as a utility. But I went offense early and pitching late, and all these other guys went early, position late for the most part. And I think that's why a guy like Bonnetti fell a bit, and I think that's why Gilbert might have got lost in the cracks a bit because they all went pitching early and I went pitching late. So I don't know. I did go up to Gilbert after the draft and I was like, dude, I was staring at your name for 3 rounds, but I kept having to fill gaps because I got to the last round or final like 5 rounds. And I was like, I still have 2 outfield spots I got to fill. Luckily, Owen Dominowski was just chilling. So it worked out for me in that regard. But all right, let's segue into the combine. So that was Saturday. Now let's go into Sunday. I think the MVP choice was kind of obvious from a personal standpoint. There was a guy who just did everything super, super well that day and tested really well. Let the record reflect that it is a combine, so it is a very metric-driven event. And, you can have your opinions on that. I don't think you're there to evaluate people necessarily as what they're going to be and what it's going to translate to right now. I think it's a metric-driven, potential-driven combine, the same way that the NFL combine is, So, Griff, give me your thoughts on who the best overall player was that day.
Kellen Ford.
I thought it was obvious. Yeah, I would.
Kellen. Yeah, no. It was the first time I ever got to see him in person. Obviously, you see highlights from Futures games a couple of years ago, and just some overall stuff on social media from different showcases and stuff like that. But I think from an overall, like, who was the guy that I walked away that I thought was a lot better than I initially anticipated was Kellen. Kellen was. We obviously didn't run there, which I think a lot of the guys were very thankful for, right? But the biggest thing I would say, with all of that is he's a lot more toolsy than anticipated. Thank you, by the way. The wife gave me a Sprite. No, but no, I think from an overall tool standpoint, from an arm strength standpoint, from the hit tool, and just like look when you walk into a room and the guys that pass the eye test, right? And don't get me wrong, we're gonna get to your Bear for Life bros. But no, I think he was one of those guys that passed the eye test, did really well, tested really well, and just from the top, kind of BSing it with him a little bit, having a little bit of fun banter back and forth. He's definitely one of those guys who's going to really excel, this spring and obviously at the next 3-4 years at Wright State. So I'm super excited to kind of see what he does, going forward, because the tools are there, the character is there, and he was, in my opinion, it wasn't particularly close from an all-around athlete perspective, because then the kid was like, hey, I'm just going to hop on the mound and hit 91. Like, it's not.
I mean,
right?
It was very evident. I mean, there's a lot of great players there, man, like a lot of really good players. I was really taken back by how much talent there was, like top to bottom. I didn't see anybody that wasn't in baseball that day. Yeah. And this isn't to like dog any other people who do showcases. You got to do what you got to do. Your business is different than what we were trying to accomplish that day. We were charging $100 to get the best players in the state to come out and showcase their talents, and really put on a good event to runway some more down the road. And I think we did that. And man, it was awesome to just see so many good players, like quality players. Because sometimes you go to showcases, and this is not, again, no discredit to what showcase companies do. That is a different business, and I've got no disrespect for it. But there are good players and there are not so good players when you go to these showcases, no matter what the name of it is. I think the only one that really, like the whatever it's called, I don't do a good job of keeping up with it. This is your world, so you probably know it better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, when you get into the futures games or pro plays or some of the invite only type of things, right? They're really high level. Those are where you're going to see the best talent, but that's just typical. But like if, mom and pop's tool and bait shop is running a showcase, over there, you might have 6 really good players and 6 guys who, shouldn't, play baseball anymore. But that's just me. That's just me being honest.
On Sunday. Those were
not on Sunday. We had from 1 to, I think we had 104 players. Mm-hmm. I think 1 to 104. It was like everyone kind of showcased very well, right? Yeah. Because we also want to, drive the narrative where it's like, hey, if you don't agree with us, or you don't agree with us on our top 100 list, and you think you should be a top 100 player, it was kind of a way that it's a put up or shut up type of thing.
Yeah,
right? Because going into guys who kind of surprised me, who are pretty good. I thought one of the surprises, especially from the catching position, was Cale Hackenberg.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought he threw really well. I thought he swung it really well. And I think he was the guy who kind of a little bit quieter guy, right? But he's from, I think he goes to Marcellus High School.
Correct.
Right? But he was the guy from a defensive standpoint, from just the receiving, blocking, and really throwing. he was the guy that grabbed my attention right away because he outthrew a lot of guys who are, Division I or Division II commits, who are already committed in that senior class. So he was a guy that I think is going to have a really, great summer and a bright future ahead of him. But he was a guy that really stood out to me, especially from, just the catching position alone.
Yeah, I thought he was awesome. So having coaching Team Michigan with Farner, we got to see Kellen Ford last year and we're blown away by him. But we got to kind of look at a lot of these guys myself and kind of evaluate a who's who type of thing. And he was one of those guys that just really jumped off the page. It was just I evaluated him in the top 100. But as you kind of alluded to a moment ago, we were trying to use this combine not only to give players an opportunity to get their metrics and also be seen in some form or fashion, whether it be on our social media or what have you. We also wanted our own in-house metrics where it's we've seen this exit velo, we've seen this fastball velo. This isn't just third-party source that we get from PBR or PG or whatever it may be. We're also in a world where we don't have to be afraid to say that either. I think those two often allude to each other, and we don't have to worry about that. And so we wanted some in-house metrics, and we were able to get those, which is awesome. Sure. And, Cale was one of those guys that was a lower on the top 100 because you watch him on PBR, you watch him on some Twitter videos, and he looks really good, but he plays at Marcellus and haven't had the opportunity to see him in person. So he was one of those guys where I'm writing about him in the top 100 real early on, and I'm hey, he looks like he could be a top 50 player. I just don't know enough about it. Don't know enough about the profile, and those I talked to don't know enough about the profile. Went and did futures games, and people started to kind of grasp it at that point. Having seen him in person now, everything I thought he was, and probably about 10 times more than that. Just a really good player.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I think if, kind of stick it to the catching position a little bit, then we'll obviously dive into, some infielders and other positions. But no, I think another guy that shocked me from an arm talent perspective was Dom Gallagher, Sean's son.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if you're not familiar with the Michigan Bulls, in the summer, Sean Gallagher's son, the guy who runs it. So his son's a sophomore at Catholic Central. And he was a guy which, same thing, a lot bigger in person than I realized, right? And he was definitely a guy from an arm talent perspective that is going to definitely excite some people moving forward. I think he looked really good, in the infield because he did both, right? But he was definitely a guy that I sat there, I was like, who's this kid, right? And then all of a sudden, I've known Sean since I was a kid, and it's you don't realize that, his son, who was, 6 years old and he was this big, just hitting in the facility, with them back in the day, is now a 6'2" athlete, right? Some serious arm talent. So super excited to kind of see him. And now, he kind of shakes out because obviously Catholic Central has Bennett Thompson, right? With the catcher going to Michigan State. So who's a senior, I believe, this year, right? So I think once you kind of
who's behind him, who's good too.
Who's that?
And they have Swearingen who's going to SAG.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. So he has a couple guys to learn from, who are older, right? Which is super beneficial just from a guy who played the position. It's very beneficial to have that in high school. It's kind of, it kind of gives you a goal to kind of work towards, not to kind of get,
philosophical.
Yeah, that was a word. Big word. That's why you're here, my guy. I'm not good at the big words.
And coordination was a tough one too.
Dude, that was I had such a tough.
At that point, you had said a lot of words, so it's easy to.
Dude, I didn't realize I was gonna have to speak every pick. That threw me for a loop. I thought Ruby was gonna jump in more, and then they just kept saying, "Hey, now off to you, Griff." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it." But no, I think, but to kind of transition to going into infielders, I think some of the guys, Dom. Or two of the guys that really stood out to me were one guy who we haven't mentioned yet, Easton Donosky, who's an Allen Park guy, right? He's a 27. Same thing as Dom. I think they played for the same Michigan Bulls team, but he was another guy from an arm talent perspective. Really, really surprised me, right? Because he tossed the ball over there about 88, 89 miles an hour across the infield, and I was like, whoa, right? And it was kind of
or he's in our league. It's going to be he's a good player.
He's a very good player. I think he's one of those athletes, right, that sneaks up on you. right? Those guys who are, pretty good, at a young age, but then they really start to develop and start to fill out and, start losing the baby fat, right? Which I need to lose mine a little bit. But I think overall he was a guy who really, showcased well, but also one of the guys who we alluded to in our player draft, Tre Eitniar, or he's going to kill me for pronouncing his name wrong. But so we're just going to call him Tre E for the rest of the time. Right. We're just going to do that for the rest of the year. But Tre out of Whiteford is definitely a guy who is starting to solidify himself as one of the top middle infielders in the class, because I think he's just very toolsy, right? I mean, the kid, he was the first guy to go in the showcase in the infield portion and picked up a baseball and threw it 92, 93 across the diamond.
Yeah.
It's not normal, right? Like that type of arm talent, and it looks super easy. Like the kid was just like, all right, I feel good. Let's roll. I'm like, all right, let's do it. But he's the type of kid, I think he's an old school player, right? The guy that just gets up, blue collar attitude, works his tail off every single day. He's from a small town in the middle of nowhere, even though I disrespect the Whiteford people. They're great people. Yeah, right. But no, I think he's definitely one of those guys who's, going to be really exciting to watch in the spring, because like we mentioned before, they're not playing in the same conference like an Orchard Lake St. Mary's or a Catholic League, right? And we're not going to go back into that conversation. Right? But no, I think Tre's going to dominate this spring. He's going to dominate in the summer, and hopefully he grabs some attention from a few mid majors out there, because I think that's where he profiles. It's kind of like that higher end mid major level, like a Central Michigan, right? So I think that, and then I think, well, let's just say this. I think those were the two guys to me that stood out. That's the end point right there if we're clipping this.
So who are some guys that maybe you didn't know before and you know them now?
You are setting me up more than ever right now because of your two Wyandotte boys who you've been talking about behind the scenes. You're like,
trying to tell him. Nobody wants to listen to Coach. I'm trying to tell him, man.
All of a sudden, this for the people back home that are listening to this either in their car or they're listening to this, on YouTube or watching us on YouTube or whatever you're doing. Brandon Justice for the last 2 years has told me he's got these two right-handers that are 6'4" and 6'8". And I was like, there's no way, right? Usually you're just like, all right, whatever, Brandon, like, dude, like, I get it. It's Wyandotte, there for life. You're biased, right? The whole thing. But when Jack came in and then when Ethan came in and they just hopped on the mound and just went 87, 88, 89 like it was nothing, and they were throwing strikes. And then all of a sudden he goes, he hasn't even thrown his best pitch yet. And then Jack just breaks off a breaking ball. I sat there and was like, all right, this guy might be onto something. But those two guys, I think, this isn't just a Brandon Justice show tonight, right? Even though it feels like it. Those two guys, I think, it gives you guys, a good chance, without you, being you and talking about the Bears and, as biased as you can be, right? Even though you're wearing the shirt. But no, I think overall, I think those two guys can really make some noise for you this spring. And I think those guys are going to have a bright future ahead of them because they are, some of the more talented, right-handers that kind of have that untapped potential, if you will, right? Like they don't play for, big national brands in the summer, or they haven't been to, the big national showcases, right? But those are guys who are definitely worth it. I think anytime you have two right-handers who throw strikes, who are throwing mid to upper 80s consistently, especially in that, hey, you can't really play long toss type of setting, to where it's like you can't really do your full warm-up. You just got to grip it and rip it, baby. And those two boys really showed out. So I know I'll let you kind of dive into a little bit of a fuller, breakdown on those guys. But those are the two guys that, really caught my eye, unbeknownst, or unbeknownst, I don't know.
You're right.
I suck at words. I'm just going
to. That was right. You were good. Just be confident. You're good. No, I mean, those are two really good.
I get all the confidence in the world. It's just sometimes you get tired. It's 9:00 at night and I'm exhausted.
Oh, yeah. We're wrapping up here. But no, I mean, as far as it goes for those two, I mean, look, like anyone who's listened to this show over the years, especially over the last 3, it's not often I talk about my own team because even going back to like when I was at South, like, yeah, like South is this very perennial program, but like we weren't that strong that year. And thus you didn't hear me talk about us all that much. And, you know, my 1 year at Grosse-Ile just pretty much didn't happen outside of like Brian and I kind of talking about the first year being a head coach and that, you know, situation. But like, I try to separate the two as much as I can. Like, I don't like intersecting cold weather bats in my team because that's just dangerous territory. And there's just two totally different things. When we're good enough, we'll be given the same spotlight that other teams that are good enough get, you know. So and they know that. And seldom do we even discuss cold weather bats at Wyandotte. It's pretty much never been talked about. I mean, we just kind of go about our business and it is what it is. And, you know, guys will ask me like in jest or just in like, you know, downtime, but like, you know, very little stuff. We're not in the top 25. We're not, you know, we just had our first or second top 100 player of the series because McGowan was one a couple of years ago. And last year he was as well. But this is the first time in quite some time where we're just, I thought Peyton Webster was a really good player as a catcher. So I'm gonna shout him out who didn't get that same love, but like Jack and Ivedy are like Division I talents. Like those are really,
they're good, man. Like it's just, there's no bias. Like, let me just be the guy who does all, like I do all the recruiting and all the stuff. Like those guys are the guys that you look at them and they look the part, they are the part, right? But they also like, they're in a great spot to really make a name for themselves, you know, in high school ball, obviously, and, you know, carry on throughout the summer, right?
Tough league, man. Like the Down River League is really good, dude. Like people are going to say what they want to say because it's a different area and all that, but like Woodhaven's a perennial, you know, top 8 team every year. They're fifth in the MHSBCA poll. They're really high in mine right now. That hasn't dropped yet. They're a good team. They got a lefty throwing 89 as a sophomore. They've got Thorning. They've got Farner, who was drafted by Team Samini. I got sniped on that. Everyone in the broadcast was shocked by that. That's my brother's best friend since he was 2 years old. That's like the one pick I had to make besides Jack, and I still didn't make the damn pick. So like those are the things that are happening at Woodhaven. Then an AP, you just mentioned an AP kid. They've also got Phillips, who's going to Northwood, who's a lefty that's like in the upper eights, and plenty of other really good players in that team. Over Jacob Marcy's playing for the Marlins right now out of AP. You know, those are really good players. Southgate's really good. Andy Green's a great coach. Bobby Martin's just casually an assistant coach at Southgate. He's one of the best coaches in the state, in my opinion.
We haven't even mentioned Jaden Yancey.
They haven't even mentioned, well, Yancey's a Huron League, but downriver area. Flat Rock is downriver.
He's a Flat Rock, like, but he's from that general.
All the same.
Listen, you're south of Detroit, you're downriver.
I know. That's what everyone says that's not from here, though, so that's why it's funny. So, you don't know that, though. I'll teach you one day. But we had to teach Dan Griesbaum Jr. back in the day that Monroe wasn't downriver. Now, Flat Rock can be grouped in. That's fine.
Monroe's not downriver.
Monroe is like 25 minutes from where I'm at, so that's just not downriver. So, but Flat Rock
is south of Detroit, my friend. So.
I know. But all that to say, like, if anyone's ever listened to this show, like, I never blow smoke where there's not fire when it comes to one of my players. And, you know, they're juniors, man. They're juniors that was Jack's first 100% intent bullpen of the year. He also hit 511 in summer ball last year. He hit nearly 350 his freshman as a sophomore for us. He had if you're getting into exit velos and everything, like, everything was like 12 to 14 on the launch. It was all line drives. It was just a real good round for him. P-wise, he threw it 87, 88 across the diamond. Like, he's a really good player, man. And then Ethan's going to be, he's going to be a pitcher at the next level, but he's also a hockey defenseman. So he just brings a type of, natural athleticism, and he's just got this like attitude about him that's good. Like, I'm talking like confidence that he's finally kind of like coming into that he didn't have. And hockey has really helped that. And so that's why I'm so happy he does that. They're both super high academic kids, very involved in clubs and very involved at the school and very committed to their academics with, all that. And it just goes to show how far those things go. So excited for them. Super happy that they play for the Bears. And I'm happy that I got to kind of see your guys' reactions, because I have always tried to sell them to you guys. And it was not just to try and, compensate for what we might not have. I mean, we're a good team, dude, and it's going to be fun this year. We jumped some humps last year, and we think, this is a year where we have an opportunity to jump some more. Not many teams in the state have a 1-2 punch like we do, and we know that, and we haven't been able to say that.
All right. Whoa. Let's slow it down.
That's true, though. I mean, it's true.
Let's slow it down.
That's true.
Right. I gave you your flowers, and now we're on a little Wyandotte tangent. Come on.
I'm just telling you.
I'm giving flowers out. Everybody gets a trophy. because everyone's soft nowadays.
Well,
right?
we got to make it out of the first game of districts before we ever win. So far,
listen, you guys make a run this year. I will sit here. I will wear the dunce cap. How about that? I will wear the dunce cap.
I will cut my finger off if we can get out of the first game of districts, dude. I mean, I'm not making like a Mike Vrabel, like busting it with the boys type of guarantee here. But, like, I'm just saying, like, if we can get past first round of districts, I'm gonna be happy, boy. Like, I want to win it. They want to win it. Everybody around here wants to win it. Everyone that coaches a team and everyone that plays for a team wants to win it. But we just haven't had that opportunity since I got there, and it's been a minute since 2021 was the last one for the Bears, and I wasn't the coach then. And so I'd like to win one. They'd like to win one. We got our work cut out for us because Woodhaven, Allen Park, Southgate, Taylor, or Carlson, all really good teams. But yeah, so that's the combine. That's the draft. That is also a little bit of a Wyandotte Bears tangent, which doesn't happen much here. So I'll make sure it's the last one that happens, unless we go win 25 games. And then at the end of the year, I'll have one before playoffs. We'll see. But yeah, any final thoughts on the combine or the draft, Griff?
No, I think one, like we mentioned in the beginning, we appreciate everyone coming out. We appreciate all the sponsors. We absolutely appreciate the prep and Chad and all those guys behind the scenes, and Charlotte, who was doing the interviews. Even though, by the way, I will say this, high school guys, let's have a little bit of personality with these interviews.
Yeah, don't be afraid to be yourself.
Don't be afraid. You're not on camera, and if you are on camera, or if you mess up during an interview, don't sweat it. You're just going to become a meme, or you're just going to become a viral, reel or whatever, and we're going to post you all over the place. Just like how Jackson Gilbert today posted my bald head and used one of my captions from my freshman year of college. That's apparently still on my Instagram.
What was it?
Huh?
What was the caption?
We're not going to get into that.
I don't know what it was. I just wanted to know.
You can look it up on your own. You can look it up on your own time. But it was a freshman year. I thought it was all that. I had hair back then. Oh. So that's probably what provoked, those captions. Right. But overall, I think the draft was great. The combine was great. I appreciate everyone helping out, especially on the staff side, for the combine, just like shout out like Dylan Chargo, Josh Martin, Tommy, Swanee, like all the guys, that helped out with the showcase. And if you're ever, willing to help out, if you ever want to, volunteer, or if you're just, interested to kind of get involved in that way, please let us know, and we can always, find a spot for you when it comes to our bigger events like that, because it always helps, right? Getting more people involved, getting some young guys involved, right? It kind of makes for a better product. But overall, it was a great experience. I loved every single second of it. I will be much better as an analyst going forward if I am in that role next year when we do this. But no, it was a great weekend. I'm exhausted still. You probably tell because I haven't shaved my head, and there's a little bit of stubble going on the sides. So, but nonetheless, appreciate everything Mike, Ruby did. BJ, appreciate everything you've done over the last however many years to really make this thing strong. But yeah, no, that's all I got for us.
All right. Well, hey, not so bad. We said 35 to 40, 48. We've done worse. So I'm
hey,
happy.
Like, comment, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen.
Last thing else. Oh, you know what? I got to put my Ruby cap on here and make sure y'all know where to go. Cold Weather Bats, patreon.com/Cold Weather Bats, website, coldweatherbats.com, every other social at Cold Weather Bats. You know how to do it. You know how it goes. Make sure that you just, hit up the brand in any way possible. We appreciate it. We're lucky to be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to do it without the players and the coaches and the teams. We've said that before. We will say it again. For Griffin, my dear friend, and I, drafter of the year this year, we'll see how it turns out, though. That's why we get to actually do it. Griffin sporting his Cranbrook baseball stuff over here. I'm sporting the dot. Monday is tryout day. If you are a player and you are a guy who is not super confident in what might happen on Monday, just flush it and go play the game, baby. Because at the end of the day, if you think during baseball, you're probably not going to do, and it is a do sport. So have fun, be safe, stay strong, don't get hurt, be a dog, bark a little bit if you have to, if it makes you feel better. We'll talk to you guys next week. Good luck at tryouts.